everything changes.
Hey, good evening everybody. Welcome into the Rockstarflipper YouTube channel. Today is Friday, TGIF. It is December 28th, 2018. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday is New Year's Eve. 3 nights to New Year's Eve and until 2019 and a new year. So after a couple of videos that I did breaking down some numbers and talking about full-time for next year, I had a couple of emails quoting some stories and some experiences by some big sellers that have done some big numbers and gone full-time or made some really successful businesses out of reselling. And one in particular was sent to me by a viewer which wanted to remain anonymous, and you know who you are, so thank you for the link. It was about a young lady who sells on Poshmark full-time, and she started way back when Poshmark was brand new, late 2011, early 2012. She officially became a actual Poshmark seller, like really doing it more than just selling a couple items out of her closet in middle of 2012, about June of 2012. Fast forward to June of this year, 2018, exactly 6 years later, a story was written on her where she had just hit $1 million in gross sales on Poshmark. Now, I don't know if she hit that in June or May, or maybe it was February. I'm gonna assume the story was written in late June or early July, so maybe in the beginning of June she hit it and they wrote the story. So that gives us a timetable of exactly 72 months, 6 years, $1 million in gross sales. So the email that I got, and this is something I've gotten over the months and years about other sellers too that do big numbers, is how realistic is this? How much money did they make? How much work did it take? Can somebody else do it? Break it down for us and show us what it really means to have done $1 million on Poshmark, or any platform for that matter, but we're gonna focus on Posh because that's where this lady sells. $1 million in gross sales. How much money did she make? Is she rich? Is she a millionaire? What has she done? Please show us. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use this handy dandy fancy whiteboard that you guys seem to love so much. We're gonna zoom in just a little bit on it, and I'm gonna show you what $1 million on Poshmark is. You're gonna lose my face here for a minute, but you'll get the point. So let's talk about $1 million. So we're just gonna write that out. We're gonna write $1 million in gross sales. Okay, and we know that was over 6 years, or as I like to break them down, 72 months of selling. So there you guys go. So 1 million gross sales, 6 years, 72 months. Okay. Well, all of us that sell on Poshmark, we already know that they take 20% right off the top. Now I know some of the transactions are different because of the minimums and all that. A little different over 6 years, but 20% is the number I want to use because that's what pretty much everyone knows. So 20% is obviously easy math. That's $200,000 in Posh fees, leaving her a net after fees of $800,000 over the same time period. So let me get out of the way. There you go. 20%, $200,000, $800,000 left over after Posh takes their cut, right? 800,000. Let me move the light because it's kind of shining. I see that. I just noticed it. The glare. There we go. Okay, so 800,000 after Posh takes their cut. Now, over 72 months, we need to find out how much does 800,000 break down to after 72 months. But first, we have some other costs. And what are those other costs? Expenses. Well, we've got cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold. That means how much did she pay for all of the items she sold to net $800,000. Well, we have to know her average sale price, which we don't know, and we'd have to ask her, but we can make a pretty good assumption that most Posh sellers are between $20 and $25. So I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt, and I'm gonna go with that $25 number. So we're gonna take 800,000, right? We're gonna divide that by $25, we're gonna find out how many items she sold over the course of 6 years. Okay, so 800,000 divided by $25 comes out to 32,000 items she sold. Now that also tells me that over 72 months, she sold about 445 items a day. I mean a month, 445 items a month, right? So the total cost of goods on 32,000, we got to assume that she's paying at least $2. Most of us get a lot of bin stuff, $1, $1.52. Her average has got to be at least $2. I'm going to guess it's more around like $2.50 to $3. We'll go ahead and give her the benefit of the doubt. We'll take the 32,000 items. We're going to multiply it by $2.50. Means she spent $80,000 on cost of goods. 80 grand, right? Take that away from her 800,000, she now has $720,000 left over after fees and cost of goods sold. $720,000 after fees and cost of goods. Well, she has some more costs. Now, most of us know that Posh is priority, and you can get most of the materials for free. A lot of you buy tissue paper. A lot of you buy things like, custom envelopes, the poly mailers. A lot of you buy thermal paper, thermal tape. There's no way she got out for less than a couple $100 a month. At least $200, $300, $400 a month. That's gonna put her around materials and paper and labels and all that stuff, $5,000 a year. For 6 years is another $30,000. So material cost is going to cost her about $30,000. Now these are all guesses. That's going to leave her $690,000 net after all that. Now we've got one more cost, which is sales tax. Sales tax is not a part of these numbers. She has to be paying sales tax. You should be paying sales tax. Now, most states are quarterly, some states are monthly or yearly. Assuming that only 10%, now she lives probably, my guess is, I didn't read, maybe Florida, New York, California, somewhere in a big state. At least 10% of her income is going to sales tax because it goes in her state, which would mean 10% of her $1 million is 100 grand. Now, she only has to pay her state tax on that, which let's just assume it's the average of about 7%. She's probably spent about 7 grand in sales tax. Or she should have spent about 7 grand in sales tax, at least. And that's probably a low estimate. It's probably more than that because I know what I spend. So that leaves her $683,000 after sales tax. Not federal, just after sales tax. Right? So then, and I'm going to give you the pre-tax number. I'm not going to cut out of her taxes. $683,000. Now we know that that is divided by 72 months. $683,000 divided by 72 months. $9,486. $9,486 a month. After everything, that's what she's left with over the course of the last 6 years, $9,486. That's pretty good numbers, right? And the problem with that is to sell 32,000 items, $445 a month, which we know she ramped up, so she's probably selling 500 or 600 now when she was selling 200 or 300 back then. That's going to take some help, and that's the part that the story ended with. She has 2 employees, and it doesn't say if they're full-time, it doesn't say if they're part-time, but we're going to assume that one's full and one's part-time. That's about a 400 and a 200, that's 600 a week in payroll, that's $2,400 a month. If you have 2 employees, you probably have a building. Even if it's a $1,500 rent with electric, that's $3,900 with water, call it $4,000 a month. That leaves her $5,486. Even if she's skimping and scramming and doing a little better, she might be making about $6,000 a month pre-tax. The rest of the story ends that she has a business partner. In half is $2,700 And if I give her the benefit of the doubt, she's making $3,000 a month after paying her employees, her building, her expenses, her cost of goods, her Poshmark fees, and splitting it with her partner. Even if she's working by herself with no partner, she's making about $5,400.86 a month without paying taxes. That is about $65,000 a year. After taxes, about $45,000, $50,000-ish, depending on her deductions. That's what it takes to make $1 million. That's what's left over when you make $1 million on Poshmark, and that's how the numbers break down. These are all things you have to take into account. I haven't even taken into account if she paid an accountant, if she paid for QuickBooks all year, if she paid for an email server, if she paid for social media or advertising. Those could all be additional costs that are not included in there, and it's all money, you know, that adds up and expenses you have to think about. So is it amazing? She did awesome. She did $1 million on any platform at any time is incredible. Congratulations. But what does it really look like to make $1 million when you're an e-commerce seller and you break it down? Well, $1 million over 6 years is at $133,000. That means she's doing $166,666 a year. $166,000 per year doesn't sound nearly as big and flashy as $1 million on Poshmark, but that's the point of the story, to grab your attention. $166,000 is still very impressive. It's just not as impressive as saying $1 million. So then once we take the 166 and get rid of the Posh fees, it's 133. And once we get rid of the cost of goods, it becomes 100 grand, and then you work your way all the way down to those numbers. So keep in mind two things. There's a whole lot of overhead involved with buying and selling. Even if you do it out of your garage, you'll go from her $6,055 to $6 up to $9,400 if you do it by yourself with no help. $9,400, a lot of money. A whole bunch of people watching this video would love to make $9,400 pre-tax after all the rest of it. And also the second thing to remember is when you see big flashy numbers and you see somebody flashing a huge $1 million year or $10,000 month or $1,000 day or whatever they're doing, it sounds all good. But you could do $1 million a day in sales, and if you only make $100, who cares? This young lady has done it right. She's done a great job. She's making a fair amount of money. If you're talking about her bringing home 68% of her income after all these costs, that's pretty good, 68% margin. And even if you break it down to her making, paying employees, her making 55 to 6, she's still making 72 times, still making $450,000 after paying employees. That's 45% of her total sales in her pocket. So after paying for employees and sales tax and cost of goods and all the stuff that you would include, she still worked and operated at a 45% margin. And that's still $60,000, $70,000 a year. So not too shabby, not bad. Good on her. I'll link the story below. You've probably seen her pop up in the video while you were watching, but $1 million. $1 million on Poshmark. That's what it looks like, guys. It's probably the same on the rest of the platforms. There's a 5 to 10% difference between all of them. So apply that. If you do 100 grand, divide it by 10. Anyways, have a wonderful Friday, guys. You guys made it through the week. Enjoy your weekend leading up to New Year's, and I'll see you again tomorrow on Saturday the 29th. Until then, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you check out the description box for all the important links, including my website, Rockstarflipperonline.com. Pick up the sourcing bolos or the social media guides. They'll both help you do amazing in 2019, and maybe the next story I do about $1 million seller will be you. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.